The church grim is a guardian spirit in English and Nordic folklore that oversees the welfare of a particular Christian church, and protects the churchyard from those who would profane and commit sacrilege against it. 1. It often appears as a black dog but is known to take the form of other animals. 2. 3. In modern times, when black dogs are kept as pets in churches and their attached parsonages, these are called church grims since they reside on and guard ecclesiastical property. The English church grim usually takes the form of a large black dog with red eyes and guards churchyards from those who would profane them, including thieves, vandals, witches, warlocks, and the devil himself. In the 19th century, folklorists believed that it had once been the custom to bury a dog alive under the cornerstone of a church as a foundation sacrifice so that its ghost might serve as a guardian. 2. 3. Like many spectral black dogs, the grim, according to Yorkshire tradition, is also an ominous portent and is known to toll the church bell at midnight before a death takes place. During funerals, the presiding clergyman may see the grim looking out from the church tower and determine from its aspect whether the soul of the deceased is destined for heaven or hell. The grim inhabits the churchyard day and night and is associated with dark, stormy weather. 3. 5. When a new churchyard was opened, it was believed that the first person buried there had to guard it against the devil. To prevent a human soul from having to perform such a duty, a black dog was buried in the north part of the churchyard as a substitute. 3. 6. According to a related belief in Scotland, the spirit of the person most recently buried in a churchyard had to protect it until the next funeral provided a new guardian to replace them. 3. 7. This churchyard vigil was known as the Fairclade or graveyard watch. 7. A folktale of the Devil's Bridge type is also an example of the motif of a dog, in this case a dog also named Grim, being sacrificed in place of a human being. In the North Riding of Yorkshire, attempts were made to build a bridge that could withstand the fury of the floods, but none were successful. The devil promised to build one on condition that the first living creature that crossed it should serve as a sacrifice. When the bridge was complete, the people gave long consideration as to who should be the victim. A shepherd who owned a dog named Grim swam across the river, then whistled for Grim to follow, who went over the bridge and became the devil's sacrifice. 8. The bridge then became known as Kilgrim Bridge 8 and was later renamed Kilgram Bridge, which today crosses the River Ure in North Yorkshire. The Scandinavian church grim is also known as the Kirkogrim, Swedish, Kirkenvaki, Finnish, and Kirkgrim, Danish. 2. 3. 11 and is likewise defined as the protective revenant of an animal buried alive in the church foundation. In Sweden, this tradition is mainly found in the formerly Danish areas in the south, Scania, Halland, and Bleking. It is also connected with a creature called the Nataram in Scanian or, in English, night raven. 12. It dwells in the church tower or some other place of concealment, or wanders the grounds at night, and is tasked with protecting the sacred building. It keeps order in the church and punishes those who perpetrate scandals. 11. It is said that the first founders of Christian churches would bury a lamb, church lamb, under the altar. When a person enters the church when services are not being held, he may see the lamb, and if it appears in the graveyard, especially to the grave digger, then it portends the death of a child. 2:11 In some tellings, the lamb is said to have only 3 legs. 13. The lamb is meant to represent Christ, the Lamb of God, as the sacred cornerstone of the church, imparting security and longevity to the physical edifice and congregation. 11 Other animals used to create the church grim included a lamb, boar, pig, and horse. 2. A grave sow, or grey sow, the ghost of a sow that was buried alive, was often seen in the streets of Kriskjoberg, where it was regarded as an omen of death. 1-2. There are tales of the Danish Kirkgrim and its battles with the Strandvarsler that tried to enter the churchyard. Strandvarsler are the spirits of those who die at sea, are washed up on the shore, and remain unburied. 11. In Swedish tradition, a person attempting the Arsgang, or year walk, a divination ritual that involved circling a churchyard on New Year's Eve, would have to contend with the church grim, which was the natural enemy of the year walker. The Last of the Giant Killers, published in 1891, includes a story where Jack the Giant Killer defeats an evil church grim that takes the shape of a goat. In this tale, Jack is helped by the ghost of a young woman who, like the Church Grimm, was buried alive as a foundation sacrifice. 15. The Church Grimm by Eden Philpotts is a short story published in the September 1914 edition of the Century magazine, New York. In the novel Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling, the divination teacher, Sybil Trelawney, associates Harry's tea leaves with the Grimm, which she calls a giant spectral dog that haunts churchyards. 16. The character Ruth in the ancient Magus Bride manga and anime series is a Church Grimm. In the mobile game Year Walk, the player's task is to reach the church and consult a Church Grimm to see what the future holds. In the subsequent Year Walk, Bedtime Stories for Awful Children, the 5th chapter is devoted to the Church Grimm.